Okay, problem 16. A bag contains 5 red marbles, 6 blue marbles, 3 green marbles, 4 black marbles, and 2 yellow marbles. A marble will be drawn from the bag and replaced 100 times. What is a reasonable prediction for the number of times a green or black marble will be drawn? So here we have to underline 100 times and green and black because those are important. So we need to add up how many total marbles there are because that will be our whole because we're going to have part over whole. So if you add up the marbles, it's a total of 20 marbles. And then there are 3 green and 4 black. So that's 7 out of 20. But then it asks us how many marbles will be drawn from 100 times. We don't know, but we can set up a proportion to find out. So we have 100, and we need to know how many times out of 100. So we'll multiply 7 times 100, which equals 700. And then we are going to divide by 20. So we have 700 divided by 20. 20 goes into 73 times. 3 times 20 is 60. I subtract, and that gives me 10. I bring down the 0, and that gives me 100. 20 goes into 100 5 times. That gives me 100. So I have 0. So my answer is 35. So J was the correct answer, 35. Okay, next problem. Number 17. The diameter of the handle of a softball bat is 1 3/4 inches. What is the length in inches of the diameters of 8 of these bat handles? So if you have 8 bats with their diameter lined up, that will be basically a straight line. So we need to figure out how long it is if I have 8 of them. So I have 1 3/4 times 8. But 8 is a whole number, so I have to put it over 1 to turn it into a fraction. And then I have to convert. So 1 times 4 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So that gives me 7 over 4. Okay, so we have 7 over 4 times 8 over 1. And then we're just going to multiply our fractions, so we'll multiply across. 7 times 8 is 56. 4 times 1 is 4. So that gives me 56 over 4. But now I need to T-bow. So I'm going to have top in, bottom out. 4 goes into 5 one time. That gives me 4. I subtract, and that gives me a 1. I'll bring down my 6. 4 divides into 16 4 times. So that gives me 14. So my answer is D, 14 inches. Next problem, 18. Chloe is 5 feet and 4 inches tall. There are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. What is Chloe's height in centimeters? So first of all, they give us her height in feet and inches. But the conversion we're given is 1 inch to 2.54 centimeters. So I need to convert this into inches. So I have 5 times 12, because there are 12 inches in a foot. So 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So that gives me 60 plus 4, because I have to bring down this 4, equals 64. So now I have everything in inches. So now I can compare with my centimeters. So you can either set up a proportion or you can simply take 2.54 times 64, which is 162.56. So the correct answer is H, 162.56 centimeters. Okay, next problem, 19. Which equation best represents the relationship between x and y in the graph? Okay, so we're given 4 options, but first of all, we have to remember slope-intercept form. Which is y equals mx plus b. Our m represents our slope, and if you remember, your slope is rise over run. And our b represents our y-intercept. This is where our line crosses the y-axis. So we're going to look at our line and see that it crosses the y-axis exactly at 3. So I'm going to fill in my equation. It crosses at 3, so I should have plus 3, because it's on positive 3, in place of my b. I bring my x over, and then m is my slope. So in order to find your slope, you have to have at least 2 points to compare. So I'm going to look at my rise, which is 3, and my run, which is 1. So y equals 3 over 1x plus 3, or y equals 3x plus 3. So the correct answer is A, y equals 3x plus 3. Okay, next problem, 20. At an assembly, 7 out of the first 10 students who entered the gym were carrying a backpack. Based on this information, if 700 students were at the assembly, how many students could be expected to be carrying a backpack? Okay, so the important information here is 7 out of the first 10 students who entered were carrying the backpack. But they want to know how many students out of 700. So you have to set up a proportion. Okay, we know 7 out of 10 did have a backpack, but we need to know how many out of 700. So all we're going to do is put our variable here to find out how many out of 700, and we will multiply and divide by 10. So we have 700 multiplied by 7. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 0 is 0. And 7 times 7 is 49. So now I take 4,900 and I'm going to divide by 10. 10 goes into 49 4 times, which gives me 40. So I subtract, bring down my 9, bring down a 0. 10 goes into 90 9 times. 9 times 10 is 90, so that gives me 0. So I'm left with 1 0 here, so I have to bring that up. So that gives me 490. So your answer here on your gradable was 490, and it was positive. Next question. 21. Emily created the net worth statement shown. Based on the information in the table, what is Emily's net worth? Okay, well, first you have to remember that assets minus liabilities equals your net worth. So you had to take this number, your total assets, which is $107,550, and you had to subtract your total liabilities, which is $20,525, to get your net worth. So you can't subtract from the zero, so you borrow. So it gives me 10 minus 5 is 5. 4 minus 2 is 2. 5 minus 5 is 0. 7 minus 0 is 7. 10 minus 2 is 8. So the correct answer was $87,025. 22. A refrigerator is priced at $525.50. There is a 6% sales tax. What is the sales tax for the refrigerator in dollars and cents? Okay, so we have a 6% sales tax. But I need to know what the tax is. So before I can multiply the 6% times $525.50, I have to convert my percentage to a decimal. And in order to do that, I have to use DP. So I have 6%, and I want to go from percent to decimal. So I'm going to go 2 spaces to the left. Add a 0, there's my decimal. So now I know I need to multiply by 0.06. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 5 is 30 plus 3 is 33. Carry the 3. 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 3 is 15. I'll carry the 1. 6 times 5 is 30 plus 1 is 31. And most importantly here, I need to count my decimal spaces. I have 4 decimal spaces, so I must have 4 decimal spaces here. So my correct answer is $31.53. And it is positive. This was a griddable. Next problem, 23. A boat traveled 27 miles in 2 hours. At this rate, how many miles will the boat travel in 1/2 hour? So I have hours, and I have miles, and I'm going to set up a proportion. I know that it is 2 hours for 27 miles, but I don't know how much it is for 1/2 an hour. So I place my variable in the miles where I need to find out the information. I'm going to multiply here, and I'm going to divide by 2. So 27 times 1/2. Oh, sorry. 27 times 1/2. So 7 times 5 is 35. Carry the 3. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 3 is 13. I count my decimal spaces. I have 1. So it gives me 13.5. So I'm going to have 13.5 divided by 2. So 2 goes into 13 6 times. That gives me 12, and I subtract and get 1. Bring down the 5. 2 goes into 15 7 times. 7 times 2 is 14. That gives me 1. Now I have to bring down a 0. 2 times 5 is 10. And that gives me a 0. And then I bring my decimal up. So 6.75 is the answer, but all our answers are in fractions. So 0.75 is the same thing as 3/4. So 6 3/4 would be your answer, B. Okay, so the next one is 24. A circular railroad crossing sign has a diameter of 30 inches. Which measurement is closest to the area of the sign in square inches? Okay, so diameter goes all the way across, and radius is half. So if diameter is 30, half of 30 would be 15. So each side is 15 for the radius. And then we need to know the formula for area of a circle. So area equals pi r squared. So area equals 3.14, which is what we put in for pi. And our radius is 15. So it's 15 squared. Okay, so we need to multiply 15 times 15. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. Then I have to add a 0. 1 times 5 is 5. And 1 times 1 is 1. So that's going to give me 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry the 1. That gives me 225. So now I have area equals 3.14 times 225. Now I have to multiply again. So I have 225 times 3.14. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. Add a 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, now I have to add 2 zeros. 3 times 5 is 15. So I'm going to carry my 1. Then 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And 3 times 2 is 6. Now I'm going to add. Okay. We cannot forget to count our decimal spaces. We have 2 up here, so that transfers here. 1, 2. So our answer is 706.5 inches squared. So the correct answer is H, 706.5 inches squared. Okay, next problem. 25. Alina drew a model of a square pyramid. The dimensions of the model are shown in the diagram. What is the volume of Alina's model in cubic centimeters? Okay, so first of all, the equation for a pyramid is volume equals 1/3 area of base times height. So now I need to fill it in. Volume equals 1/3. Area of base for a square would be base times height times the height of the pyramid. So volume equals 1/3 times my square base, 10 times 10 times the height of my pyramid, which is 12. Okay, volume equals 1/3. 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 12 is 1200. Now I have 1/3 times 1200. So you put it over 1. 1 times 1200 is 1200. 3 times 1 is 3. So now I need a T-bow to get my answer. So I have top in, bottom out. 3 divides into 12 4 times. That gives us 12. So it cancels out to 0. So I bring my 2 zeros up. So the correct answer is 400 centimeters cubed. Cubed because it's volume. 26. A storage container is shaped like a rectangular prism. The volume of the container is 1,360 cubic feet. The area of the base of the container is 160 square feet. What is the height of the container in feet? So first of all, we're going to use what we know, which is the equation for a rectangular prism. So volume equals area of base times height. And to take that one step further, volume equals base times height times height. Okay, so our volume, they tell us, is 1,360 cubic feet. And the area of the base is 160. So I have 160 times h. So now I just need to solve for my variable. So the inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 160. So that gives me 1360 divided by 160. 160 does not divide into 136, but it does divide into 1,360 8 times. And I know that because if I take 160 and I multiply by 8. Okay, so 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 6 is 48. So I have 8 and I'll carry my 4. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. So that gives me 1280. So now 1280, and I'm going to subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. I'm going to have to borrow here. 16 minus 8 is 8. 2 minus 2 is 0. Okay? So now I have to add a 0, and 160 goes into 800 5 times. 5 times 160 is 800, so that is 0. So my answer is 8.5 feet, H. Next problem, 27. Okay, problem 27. Landon used a semicircle, a rectangle, and a right triangle to form the figure shown. Which is the best estimate of the area of the figure in square centimeters? So you have 3 different figures, so you have 3 different formulas you have to use. For the semicircle, we are going to use A equals IR squared, which is the formula for a circle, but because it's a semicircle, we divide it by 2. For our rectangle, we have area equals base times height. For our triangle, we have area equals 1/2 base times height. Okay? So for the circle, if this is the diameter, so if the diameter is 4, my radius, which is half of that, will be 2. So I have area equals, okay, A equals 3.14, which is what we plug in for pi, times R, which is a radius of 2 squared. So 2 times 2 is 4. So we end up with 4 times 3.14. Oh, and don't forget dividing by 2. So 3.14 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, carrier 1. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 4 times 3 is 12. Then I need to look and see how many decimal places I have. I have 2, so I have to carry that down here. So I end up with 12.56 that needs to be divided by 2. So 12.56 divided by 2. Hold on one second. 12.56 divided by 2. 2 goes into 12 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. That gives me 0. I bring down a 5. I make sure I bring my decimal up. 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. I subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down my 6. 2 goes into 16 8 times. That gives me 16, and that gives me 0. So for the area of the circle, I have area equals 6.28. Now for the rectangle, I need area equals my base, which is 6, times my height, which is 4. So 4 times 6 is 24. So that gives me area equals 24. Now for the triangle, we need base, which would be right here, but I'm not given a length. But I am given that this entire length is 10, and this is 6. So if I take 10 minus 6, that gives me 4. Then I need the length of this side, which would be my height, which is 4. So area equals 1/2 times 4 times 4. So area equals 1/2 times 4, or 4 divided by 2, is 2. Bring down my 4. So 2 times 4 is 8. So that gives me 8. Now I have to add all of the areas together to get the area of the entire figure. So that's 8, 2, 18, carry the 1, 38.28. Okay, so the closest estimate, because they wanted an estimate, is 38 centimeters squared. Okay, and it's squared because it's area. So our next problem is 28. A store sells new video games for $55 each. Used video games sell for $12 each. Jacob is buying 3 new video games and X used video games. Which equation can be used to find Y, the total price Jacob must pay in dollars? Okay, so Y is going to be equal to new video games plus used. Now, we know that new video games are $55 each, and we know that he bought 3 of those. So 55 times 3. 3 times 5 is 15. I carry the 1. 3 times 5 is 15. Plus 1 is 16. So that gives me Y equals 165 plus, I do not know the amount of used video games, but I do know that they cost $12 and that X is going to represent them. So it would be 12X. You could also write it as Y equals 12X plus 165. Either way would be the correct answer. So our correct answer is going to be G. Y equals 12x plus 165. Next problem, 29. Caroline's cell phone plan costs $32 a month. Which table shows the sum of the amounts that Caroline will pay for her cell phone plan over the next 4 months? So the first month has to be $32. So we can cross this one out because it's not $32. This one's not $32. So we're left with C and D. Then we know it's $32 every month. So by month 2, it's 32 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. So this would be 64. Okay? This is at 2 at 36, so that's not correct. And this one is correct. So D is the correct answer. It increases every month by 32. 30. The circle graph shows Alan's activities during 24 hours. How much more time in hours did Alan spend listening to music than playing tennis? Okay, so first of all, music is 12%, and tennis is 10%. So 12 minus 10 equals 2. So the difference is 2%. So I'm going to have 2 over 100, because the percentage always goes over 100. But I need to know what this is in hours. So we know that these are the activities over 24 hours. So 24 would be the whole, and we're looking for the part. So I set up a proportion. So I'm going to multiply and then divide. So 24 times 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. So that gives me 48 divided by 100. 100 does not go into 48, so I have to add a 0. It does go into 480 4 times. So 4 times 100 is 400. That leaves me with 80. 80. Then I have to bring down a 0. Make sure that your decimal point is before you added the 0. Okay, let's fix that. Okay, so 8 times 100 is 800. So that gives us 0. So our answer is 0.48 hours. G.